Thank you, Mr. President. I'm presenting to you today Senate Bill 468, which enables families who have a loved one die by suicide who's been serving as a public safety officer to be able to receive funds, the death benefit from the indemnification fund. It's important to note that the leading cause of death for law enforcement officers, second only to COVID, is suicide. This is an endemic problem for our public safety officers, one that we have to work on both sides. We have to make sure we pass policy so that people don't die by suicide, but we also need to pass policies to make sure that their family members are cared for in the event of such a tragic death. I think I'll stop there and I'll yield for questions.
You have no questions.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a very difficult subject for most of us to talk about. I myself have lost several people throughout my life who died at their own hand by suicide, and it is tragic, and it is a growing epidemic, sadly, and it is most prevalent in those who have served us in some type of uniform, our military heroes and our first responders. I want to thank the Senator from the 41st with her great passion and purpose behind helping these families. She pointed out that it is the #1 cause of death for those in law enforcement behind COVID. It's also the #1 cause of death for firefighters. It is 2 times what the general population is for those that serve as an EMT or a paramedic in our emergency medical services. This is a real problem, and it has attributed typically to PTSD. And for all of us that have served in one way, shape, or form, and there are many in this room, and if I named them all, I'd be remiss to forget one. But if you've served us as a first responder or in the military, most of us have seen things we simply cannot unsee. Even things that I saw almost 3 decades ago, whenever I close my eyes, I still can't make go away. The folks that did this service and then took their own life still made the ultimate sacrifice for us. No matter how you look at this situation, they served us, they were impacted by the most difficult jobs you can possibly have on this planet, and they are no longer with us. And the people that suffered, as the Senator from the 41st put it so well, are the families. These are children. These are spouses who are left behind to pick up the pieces. No less a heroic death than those who have died in our community or abroad, serving us in a myriad of ways. I know this is difficult to process, but at the end of the day, these folks did right by us, and it's time we did right by them. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 29th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to thank the Senator from the 41st for this compassionate piece of legislation. When Joe and Gary and Vince decided to, as we call exit, stage left, they chose their own method to go out. It's easy for me to sit down and look at the circumstances surrounding each of their lives and each of their deaths and determine which ones were consumed by what monsters existed. But I know for a fact that 2 of them were consumed by the job. The job that we all started at either the age of 21 or 22, the job that we grew up in, the job that we became conditioned to, and the job that at 40 and 45 and 50 years old, we sat around the table making extremely important decisions, not realizing the darkness that lives inside of all of us after a while. How each of us choose to cope with it is extremely different. Some of us have dark senses of humor, drink a lot of dark coffee, and enjoy laughing. Some of my friends, the monsters that possess them were different. I received the calls before I became a senator and since I become a senator, and I'll never judge my friends until I get on the other side and see where they are. If I'm lucky enough to get to where they are, my destination could very well be somewhere else. But this is important, it's compassionate, and the victims in this are not my friends who sat down next to a tree in a park, who parked his car at a fire station, or who cleaned his house, mowed his grass, put everything in order for his children, and laid in his bed. The victims are the grandchildren, the children, and the spouses they left behind. And we can never, ever pay them enough for the sacrifice that they made. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 468? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 3. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed.